has found. Yes, if anybody has found an
There it
orphan
is.
slash cabernet.
Oh,
Yeah.
here.
Thank you.
She needs it now.
Yes.
More than that.
Are they streaming?
We are
No,
streaming.
no, I just need to know where it is. Thank you. Okay, good. So thank you, everybody, for coming. The Writers Guild of Bloomington sponsors second Thursday spoken word series event every month, and except for January. And we want to thank the Writers Guild of Bloomington. We want to thank Backspace and all the good people who helped make this happen. We have a wonderful set of performers tonight, but I have a bunch of announcements to make first. So first of all, I'm Joan Hawkins, along with Tony Brewer. I co-coordinate the second Thursday spoken word series. We are sponsored in part by the Indiana Arts Commission, Bloomington Arts Commission, and the Bloomington Urban Enterprise Association. The Writers Guild of Bloomington wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities native to this region and recognize that Indiana University and the city of Bloomington were built on indigenous homelands and resources. We recognize the Miami, Delaware, Potawatomi, and Shawnee people as past, present, and future caretakers of this land. The Writers Guild of Bloomington sponsors a number of ongoing events, one of which is called Third Sunday Write. It's currently a virtual place where you can find writing prompts and the company of other writers. If you want to sign up, you visit a private Facebook page, and it's at that private Facebook page that you respond to prompts that are posted monthly, and you can then write and post anytime during the month and offer a response to the writing of others by sharing a readback line. So if you want more information or you would like to join the group, contact Shauna Ritter at shauna747@gmail.com. Please include Third Sunday in your subject line. And if you need to find any of this information, you can go to our website, which is Writers Guild Bloomington, all one word.com. Okay, on Wednesday, June 26th, we have a special program with featuring animals and giraffes, which is a group comprising saxophonist Phil Greenleaf, wonderful saxophonist from the Bay Area, and spoken word performer Claudia LaRocca, also a wonderful performer from the Bay Area, along with our local Kyle Quas, me, and Ortet. And that will be Wednesday, June 26th at 7 here at Backspace Gallery. And it is part of the Urban Deer Performance Series, which is headed by Tony, and is co-sponsored by the Writers Guild of Bloomington. There's no Writers Guild business meeting this month. There is a last Sunday poetry reading and open mic. That'll be Sunday, June 30th, 7 to 8:30 p.m. at Morgenstern Books. And that's featuring Steve Henn and Mahasweta Batsapata. The spoken word series next month, which will be Thursday, July 11th, will be featuring the poets in the anthology Stormwash Environmental Poems. That's an anthology that came out in April, published by the Grindstone Press and edited by Hiromi Yoshida. And the music will be by the Uke Tones. And again, all of this information is available on our website or by liking and following us on Twitter, IG, or Facebook. Or sign up for our newsletter by visiting our website, writersguildbloomington.com. There's no cost to sign up for the newsletter. Okay, so the first performers that we have tonight are musicians Kyle Klaus and Julian Douglas. They've been collaborating for 20 years. Across this time, they have performed in many different ensembles, co-led several bands, and worked on multiple recording projects. In the process, they have formed their own unique shared language, blending progressive jazz and contemporary world music. Releases on which they've collaborated include Kyle Klaus's Fractured and Julian Douglas's Talafala. So please join us in welcoming Kyle Klaus and Julian Douglas. So let's do it again. And we'll be playing the longer set in the sort of in the between space, the space between the featured readers and the intermission. So tonight we're honored to have three wonderful readers as our features: Jason Ammerman, Tony Brewer, and Joe Kerschbaum. And you've heard them perform together often as an ensemble, Reservoir Dogwoods, but tonight each is performing separately as a featured reader. So first up is Jason Ammerman, who began his career as a poet in 1989 at the young and impressionable age of 16. He crossed paths with great poets who shared the stage with talented and earth-moving poets like Etheridge Knight. During the 90s, Jason led many poetry readings in and around Indianapolis, becoming involved with the poetry slam scene in the late 90s, early 2000s. In 2008, he formed the Reservoir Dogwoods performance troupe, along with poets Tony Brewer, Joe Kerschbaum, and Matthew Jackson. And they have toured and performed in various configurations all over Indiana. Excuse me. So Jason was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in December 2022, and the Dogwoods had their final show in March 2024, which raised nearly $1,000 for Man Up to Cancer, an organization for males who are fighting or have fought cancer. Jason is the author of 3 collections of poetry. His most recent, through Chatterhouse Press, is Battle Scarred. He is also the artist on the spoken word album Revival, recorded and distributed through Perfect Mix Records. At present, Jason is completing several written and recorded projects, and he has merch for sale out in the lobby. So please join me in welcoming Jason, really, truly one of the most courageous people I know.
Sure, it takes me a minute. This is an apt change the other dog. I'm sure if you say you want to see it. So that's a good thing. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joey, for the wonderful introduction. How is everyone?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
You're not hungry, are you? So at first, going down here, I was going to be like, I'm going to be very introverted, or I'm not going to follow yet. The reason why I brought this is sometimes I do have difficulty getting around. But on the way down, I was like going to be kind of introverted about things. And what I realized is this. I'm too old to care. I'm not joking. I'm wearing a Slayer shirt with suspenders. I represent Gen X.
Yay.
I'm not afraid. You might be. So I totally do plan on reading some Kiss this evening. I'm kidding, guys. Joe and Tony. All right. I'm not going to get all deep into the last show with Dogwoods. It was emotional. I'm being nice about it because I went home and I was so exhausted. Sorry, there we go. I know you can hear me. home and I was so exhausted, I had no other choice than to sleep. And I woke up the next morning, still wiped out, but I knew that couldn't be my last show. This stuff's too important to me, it's my lifeline. That being said, I dug out some old stuff. Sorry. I don't know why I brought it. So I got some old stuff. I hope you dig it. In 2013, Indianapolis Museum of Art hosted a showing of the controversial and, in my opinion, absolutely moving artist IYY. I hope I pronounce his name. I'm afraid if I don't, he's going to find me. Because he's not afraid to give a finger. At least I found that out. One of the pieces was a helmet that was carved out of marble. And I wrote this as an acrostic poem. So I hope you dig it. It's a poem called Sacrifice to the Sichuan Province Earthquake 2008. Ribbons of protein streak the bone. Marbleized, a hand reaches down from heaven to comfort the worker who lost his life today. Buried underneath the rubble of a future that is questionably worthless, yet achingly entertaining, at least to the rest of the world. The worker is a savior, throwing his body over 2,000-year-old remains of a king, his court, his jester, his servants, and most importantly, his queen. Her skull lying in pieces. Maniacs, the spirit of the worker shouts, as his great fingers sift through the dust. The queen, her voice gentle, you have returned to us, leaving a hard hat, a record of what happened, a history new to be written by breath. The white messenger clouds from the gods, they hang as a memorial to the king, to the peasants, and for the first time, the worker knows that the physical world is not as important as anything. It is all about that moment of death. The worker pulls back his fingers and replaces them onto the stumps of his knuckles. He places his palms around his ears and rattles his head until the dust settles. He sees nothing short of a Christian Armageddon. He falls back against the skeletal bodies. No prayer, simple lucidity. He knows the prayers are for the living and that funerals are for the living as well. He knows that his place is here in the rubble among the memories, where only a disaster will rest on the tips of mass media tongues, where faces will fade from the minds of families. Thank you. I write very happy poems. I don't share them though, so I'm sorry. Not really. Maybe like Jason, this is Hallmark card stuff. But you know, it is what it is. Years ago, so I love ghost stories. I find it hard pressed to find someone who doesn't love a good ghost story. Being scared out of the woods from age 8 to 80. And I came across a ghost story about Harper's Ferry and John Brown. And it made me want to kind of put my spin on it. So this is that. Don't worry, it ends a lot more happy than the original story. This is John Brown's ghost. Harper's Ferry isn't the same place. People walk to an inquisitive pace. Past the man with the long weathered face, tattered clothes, clean to the naked eye, but I know this man to be more than just homeless. Famished, belly protruding, yet the ability to count ribs remains easy, as if one is laying hands onto a broken abacus. He's not as intelligent as we are. We're just roustabout tourists, drinking beer and cursing, a history of anti-passion, anticipating the army coming in from the west, marching their boots, thunderbolt mimicry, clownish acting, for the worn human being sneaks into a photograph taken, hunched over. His eyes are sunken in, almost purple on the underside, yet decisive in why the gait of his strut is almost 1970s disco. Flashy, giddy, pious, maybe just a little bit arrogant. The surroundings of national park rangers and home, they tempt him. He wishes he was at home, planning, heaped over a table, a Bible in one hand, a powder charge in the other. Boot marks left of scuffing. He has come a long way from the days of Kansas, slaughtering pro-slavery advocates who never owned slaves, according to the probable cause affidavit filed. It remains in the cold case room of the Smithsonian, alongside names like Hoffa, Kennedy, Stringbean, Lindbergh. I'm adding that last one just to give it a touch of conspiracy. John Brown's ghost likes to be in pictures for tourists. He never charges. He always slips in like atmospheric pressure, ready to pop all over the camera lens. Some would call this ectoplasmic. Some teenagers would call it pornographic, even criminal. But when it is a man emaciated and waiting for a hanging, it becomes the stuff of legend. And that's okay. When all the scary things have rallied inside of reality television scenes, it's okay when evidence dies with the body, singing songs about it around good guy campfires to psych themselves up for the next day's battle. But today isn't about slavery nor bloody battlefields. This story is telling me about the tourist trade. To flip a coin in the direction of this gaunt miscreant, as he wants to be a part of the free world where his accomplishments are measured in martyrdomships, bet on, cashed in by brothers who fight brothers over principle, not some Cain and Abel sibling rivalry. It is this ghost disappearing from the photograph when developed. It is this ghost who teaches us that there are bigger things to die for. And he did just that. He died for a bigger cause, giving to him in a dream by God. And he is nowhere near as crazy as you or I when we want to fight a war over words. When the scars are able to be healed through forgiveness, this ghost, John Brown's ghost, knows this deeply and painfully. 15, yeah. I'm going to do one more. We move on. So as Jonah mentioned, I do have merchandise available. Unfortunately, I only deal in cash right now because everything medical-wise is wiped out, all the bank stuff. So be more than happy to take care of it. You know, we'll get me coffee tomorrow. Goals. But this is a track off of that record, Revival. And I got the idea from a painting, so this is another acrostic poem. It's my mom's favorite poem that I've ever written. I really think it's the only poem she knows that I've ever written. It's okay. She digs it. One cool note on the record, my son does his own version of a poem at the end of it. I had like 4. So as best as it is, it's cool. It's called Liberating Eve. She's taken that apple back to the tree. Hunched over in her old age, so many children have traveled through those hallowed halls, but she is left heartbroken by just one. Turned his back, struck his brother down, slaying the groundwork for sibling rivalry. And she's taken that apple back to the tree, the sun passing overhead, bearing down on the severely weathered skin. The serpent coils itself around the trunk. It's all we can stare at the moment. He speaks of the shadow of man. He asks her to picture the brains as they stain the fingertip pads warm from sculpting so many pots to eat from. The serpent has taken her riches and scattered them to the 4 corners of an earth that was promised to her. The winds blowing wildly across forests and seas, leaving them barren, nothing but a path for lost souls to place blame on woman. But she's taking that apple back to the tree in hopes that everything will be righted. The earth will repopulate after war. It is simple. It is normal. She misses her sons, both of them. One lifeless, another convicted. So she's taken that apple back to the tree, defying the curse that was laid upon her. Through trickery, through the serpent coiled, anticipating the loss of control over her. She lays the apple under the root of the tree. She knows this to be freedom. It is liberation. It is atonement. She is and always will be a good mother. Thank you. Next year I'll be doing acrobatics. Thank you so much for having me with us.
Thank you again, that was phenomenal. And can I have another round of applause for Jason? Okay, next up is somebody that I've worked with on a lot of projects. We often joke that we're sort of co-collaborators or co-conspirators in crime. Tony Brewer is a poet and audio artist from Bloomington, Indiana, where he is executive director of the spoken word series and the spoken word stage at the 4th Street Festival of the Arts and Crafts. And as he wrote, co-producer of the Writers Guild Bloomington Spoken Word Series. He also heads the Urban Deer Performance Series. He's published 12 books and chapbooks, including most recently Centaur with Jonathan S. Baker through Dark Heart Press. And coming later this year, Good Job Lightning through Stubborn Mule Press. And you can find more at Linktree, so linktr.ee/Tony Brewer. Please join me in welcoming Tony.
Thanks, Jim. So a round of applause for Jim Hawkins. Against all odds, you're going to happen. So I wanted to start with, so back in April, the Writers Guild co-sponsored a screening of a film, a documentary about a beat poet named Ruth Weiss, who I was familiar with the name, but I wasn't familiar with the work. It was a great documentary, and I picked up her book, one of her books, called Desert Journal, and it's been great, and I've been working my way through it, and I wanted to start with one of her poems, because she's the kind of beat poet that I really like. She is really more of a, I would describe her, and I think she's described in the documentary as more of a jazz poet. beat poet. Because she doesn't do the Bukowski thing or whatever. She does what I like, lyrical, abstract, very musical, poignant poems. So I want to read, and this is basically, this is a Desert Journal is essentially a series of 40 days in the desert, basically. So each poem is a different day, and this is the 8th day. We can't be friends, but we don't have to be enemies. The crab witch becomes sorcerer. Atlantis reascends in Mars. The violence spends itself, letting go. Only the firebird, perched on peak of pyramid, beak still open to soul stars on set wet claws. The myths are true, as are you, whoever the you may be at the moment of telling. The teller of them, the last one to believe. Flash, the energy stretches, a clown bird destruction to its wingtip. Wing and whoosh, who wants any part of that kind of flying? The desert is fatigue. The desert is all living organism in the face of continual annihilation. The desert is all myth and all true, as are you, whoever the you may be at the moment of telling, the teller of them, the last one to believe. There may be an open door that is really locked. There could be a lock on another that is really open. Only the desert, being vast and slow, fast like so much sand, could conjure doors and locks in open space. Only the desert, where the firebird, perched on peak of pyramid, beak still open to soul stars on set wet claws, fingers from hands clenched yet pointing to black night, glistening stars, one black dog, no owner in sight or out of vision. The visionary black dog, only guard, not messenger yet, is learning too, as you, who must follow the fingers from hands clenched yet pointing. There are no stars left to right, wrong, imagined, only the myths are true, as are you, whoever the you may be at the moment of telling, the teller of them, the last one to believe. We can't be friends, but we don't have to be enemies. The crab witch becomes sorcerer. Atlantis went down in a wall of water, and the fire breathes, burning breath, sand, life, and death. One ball. She was, I think, in most of the early, the documentary was made fairly recently, and she died just like a year or two ago, and she was 92 or 93 and was still doing it, still performing, so she was amazing. But back to me, I just got back from a residency that I did for a week at the Osage Arts Community in Bell, Missouri, where I work in their letterpress print shop. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And basically I go out there and I work on 1896 Chandler and Price job press. And I make stuff. And I try to go out there with another poet and make stuff with another poet. This time I worked with a Pueblo, Colorado poet named Kyle Laws. I made we worked on a cover for her chapbook. And I also made a broadside that I have 5 copies of, if you're interested. And I wanted to read the poem that's on the broadside that I made. And this is hand printed by the author, so it's like real blood, sweat, and tears. No blood, a little blood, but mostly sweat. Not really any tears. We were very happy to be working. This is called "What Would Thoreau Do?" These are days the pond was made for. The isolated mind, like a skipped stone, riding its own echo, then sinking. The safe space of the forest, unencumbered, disinterested. The fertile earth, perfect and unable to vote. Eternal outsider inside us all. I'm just working down the list here. So So this is from my book, Pity for Sale. I wrote this a while ago, but I wrote it about a period of time almost 30 years ago now, back when I was 20 or so. This is called Wake. When I was 20, my friends and I agreed that should the earth try to shake us loose and slough civilization like dead skin cells, in the dark anarchy following, we'd meet in Indianapolis at the foot of the great gray block coffin of the war memorial there. From the air, it looks like a sarcophagus, and down the street, the soldiers and sailors monument in an Egyptian Roman arrangement with European scales and swords, and then there's us, out of places to hide, surely still standing, even after we all get scattered, but not romantic, like Ash, more like a zombie movie, or The Day After. Some of us so far away we can't ever come back. Lost children see things, ghosts, the future, through walls. The logic of those many steps and columns reactivating a phantom sense of war pride for the first Gulf War, which did not exist unless you were watching it live. I don't have any friends anymore I don't want to keep in my apocalypse, my patriarchal downfall, my bug-out bag survivalist trip. And when the big one does come, you'll find me lounging in the rubble, reading anything left, and breathing in the final air, though I'll probably take up smoking again, waiting for all my friends. All right, I'm going to try and find this real quick. I don't quite have time to load everything. I'm pretty good at finding stuff very quick down here. Don't be one of those poets, Tony. No, there it is. All right, this is about, this is based on a true story. It's a short poem, but it's, this happened in Bell, Missouri. I want you to know that. This happened at Barb's Books in Bell, Missouri. This is called Some Owners. The pistol fell out of her jeans at a poetry reading. Nice people, smokers. She came to spit at the open mic, and he held it for her. Where'd you go? There we go. She came to spit at the open mic, and he held it for her. She couldn't go up there with it, armed, when she wants to be vulnerable. She kills it, takes the pistol back when she sits down. He puts his cowboy hat back on as they leave, us all appreciating her commitment to a revolver. I don't know if you're gun people. You're probably not gun people because you're poetry people. But a revolver is a commitment because an automatic is not necessarily foolproof, but it has the higher capacity for you to, never mind. This was a big honking gun that fell out of the we'll go back to this one. This is also based on a true story. This conversation actually happened at a restaurant in Owensboro, Kentucky. This is called A Buddhist Eating a Hamburger is asked how she plans to atone for this injustice. She replies, one must approach the dilemma with a diamond of eyes, each facet a truth, wet meat lingering on a concrete floor, farmers raising grain, and vets with vaccination needle shooters, the feeding and stroking and herding a long sequence of metal mazes and latex gloves and awful stained fields, hands touching her meaningfully for the first time belonging to a leather aproned butcher with a bolt gun, a foot switch to a slick drum, and a hot bone saw with a shiny red smile. Ruminate on the genealogy of industrial violence and sustain yourself. For acceptance and forgiveness lead to the cessation of all suffering, she says, taking a big, juicy bite. She then considers the French fries and the potatoes whence they came, Who prays for them? What memorial 8x10 glossy will loom over a candlelight vigil in somber observance of boiling oil and 1,000 crinkled cuts? Who weeps for the vegetables? No one. No one, she concludes, smacking the 57 on a glass coffin of ketchup. This is for, where'd you go? This is for my friend. Won't load. Oh, okay, well, never mind, my friend. Here, give me, I can fill. So this is for my good friend, Jason Brewer, who is also a publisher. He's publishing that forthcoming book, Good Job Lightning. So of course, this is going to be in the forthcoming book. Let's see if it will load here. I bet it will. Yeah, here we go. This is called The Guy in the Clutch T-shirt. Somewhere between spicy IPA and some flavorless Schlitz, a car is born idling, both feet ready to burn rubber, both pedals options on the constant road, and the voice is a burnout popped out of granny gear all the way to redline, back to idle of repose. Can we start already? Or is this just where it gets interesting? Life by the metaphor, racing, stop to stop, the illusion of automatic when it's all goddamn work, only the transmission does it for you. In the barrel chest of a mean street machine, running like a mouth full of poem and spite, racing and winning, so far ahead, sometimes it feels like living in last place. Two more. Go back to this one again. This is called Our Origin. Our Origin. Tell me a story. Not how your day has been, that you cleaned the cat box, took out the trash after clearing the refrigerator of dead, uneaten food. House spirits care for these details, and the piles of spite it takes to motivate your ass to chore away a Saturday. I want your legends and myths, not the lie-consuming cycle requiring a ladder to properly tuck away, or the rumor slouching down Main. Sirens going whoop, whoop, through the intersection, havoc canned for their protection. Will we be stranded on this rock forever? I remember how to make a raft from a movie, and the movie in my head where Dad was there to tell me how and do it all himself. Where fate got slammed, a pool formed. I filled it with neat colored rocks I found along the riverbank. Not naturally occurring. A plot, some action, and a truth. The eyes glaze over because telling is no substitute for a show, reduced in this textual world to merely unbelievably enthralling. Back into the stars you go, up, up, into the cloud, with ringing ears from the chorus glory. Nothing need be foretold, but save us from the random, with singular vision and undeniable breath. Leave nothing out and make it good. So, thank you all for being here. It's really good to be kind of back in my usual space. I'm like the impossible burger between, I'm the impossible burger in the dogwood sandwich that is Joseph Kerschbaum and Jason Ammerman. All that's missing is the Matthew Jackson special sauce.
That's right, that's right.
You really could have come up with a different ingredient.
I know, well, he's busy in Jamaica getting COVID again.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if he does. He just, every time he goes to Jamaica, he gets COVID.
Right.
I think
I think it's an excuse. I think he's getting high.
I think you're right.
You can vote.
I think it's partly why he likes to go. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's a thing with him. So this is the new chapbook. This is the only copy I have, because copies are arriving next week. Joe and I are on the same wavelength as usual. His new book's in the mail. Mine is in the mail. So this is the one I have. This is a split chapbook I did with, some of you know Jonathan S. Baker down there in Evans, Kentucky. We did a split chapbook together called Centaur, and we're actually going to do a tour later this summer on it. And I want to read a poem from it. I have a ton of poems about typography and bookmaking and typesetting and book design, graphic design, all that stuff. Because I do that. I'm a book designer by trade. In addition to just going and working on this ancient tractor of a letterpress out in a barn in Missouri. It's literally a barn, and it's literally in the middle of Missouri. So this is one of those, and it's the closer of the book. So I thought I'd share it with you. Thank you for being here. This is called Colophon Condensed. Do you know what a colophon? Do people know what a colophon is? Okay, good. Oh, I get to. So a colophon. So back in the day, you still see colophons. Mostly you see colophons in like boutique publishing. You see them in the backs of old books from the 70s and 80s, and maybe some even into the 90s, and then they kind of went away with digital printing. But a colophon is, I'm going to describe it, but it's a little thing that basically, it's like the closing credits of a movie. If the book was a movie, the colophon are the closing credits, and typically it tells you who the designer was, who the typesetter was. It tells you what all the fonts were. It may even give you a little history about the fonts, like where the fonts came from. And sometimes it tells you who the printer was. And the really fancy ones tell you what kind of paper that it's printed onto. Computers don't care about colophons, so it's all just garbage, man. You can make it up. You can make up your own, like I did. This is called Colophon Condensed. And finally, a little tombstone of text at the end, describing the typeface and its maker and when it was cut and then remade for WYSIWYG and plastic keys. This book was specially designed by human beings for human beings, with a skill dating back all the way to 1977, or if you want to get technical, 1544. The body was set in ITC unicorn rampant with headers in dirty bomb bold, feet and folios in cadaverous italic, printed on left-hand rolled sheets of 69-pound Roman hammer baked pus slight opaque by Goody and Sons Limited. It says so right there in print, so it must be true, like the Bible. Hand, eye, and ego disappear into ink and steel until the skin begins to glow and stain like deckled leaves. A seed's origin historians and botanists surely would wither without knowledge of. But when you sit down to dinner, it's what's on your plate and how it tastes that matter. Go ask a gardener how his hands got dirty. He won't sell you a recipe for dirt. Yet there they are, all the secrets of a book, when I could almost believe the text had been set by lightning, burning words into the backside of a tree, felled, stripped, folded, gathered, and trimmed by the honest hands of a modest God who miraculously designed the pages. So when typos creep in, it's through fault of man, the author's haste, an editor's migraine, a nameless, faceless typesetter's sloppy sin. Thank you.
Yes, thank you again, Tony. Everybody, thank you for coming. So our third reader is Joseph Kerschbaum, and his most recent publications include Mirror Box from Main Street Rag Press, Distant Shores of a Split Second from Louisiana Literature Press, that was 2018, and Reunion, the Dallas Review. I'm sorry. And Midnight Sunrise, just out from Main Street Rag Press. His recent work has appeared in Reunion, the Dallas Review, Hamilton Stone Review, the Inflectionist Review, Main Street Rag, In Parentheses, and Umbrella Factory. Joe lives in Bloomington, Indiana with his family. Please join me in welcoming Joe.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Good. Woo. All right. It's good to be here with my Dogwoods brethren. So we used to do sets together, shows together, tour together. I don't know. We laughed, we cried, we did the whole thing. So I was trying to think, like, how do I do any type of homage to my, since we just kind of happen to all be here together. So I was like, do I call them up? Do we do a group piece together just on the fly? They know I do not operate on the fly, so that was not going to happen. But I thought I have a piece that I would often open my Dogwood sets with. So I thought I would do that piece, which I just thought of a minute ago. So it's very short. So it goes by really fast. So everybody buckle up. It's not mine, so I'm like Tony, I'm going to start with the cover. This is called My Sex Life. My sex life. One failure on top of another. All right. So that's how you do that. So it's really not mine. It's really not mine. Okay, so yeah, I've got a new book coming out like next month. I was hoping to have copies here. I don't. So it's in the mail. It's in the mail. That's what isn't everything in the mail? So I'm going to read a few, so I might as well get to the new material. This is one, I guess we might as well get straight to the religious material. So I am not a person of faith, and I have friends who are, so that's great for them. It's never been, I've never been in that thought, and I've ever since as a kid. So I kind of started exploring that. So this first poem is called Reasonable Doubt. There is something wrong with me. None of the other kids can hear the whispers with the exaggerated lisp of a forked tongue. They sit on beanbags, listen attentively as Pastor Rick reads parables aloud from colorful picture books. I dread Sunday mornings, bored with the dentist, and I have cavities at every appointment. While the other kids learn about the ceremony on the mound, I stare at the maple tree outside as the serpent fills my ears. Being deficient in belief is my fault. A dark weakness must have opened a trapdoor to my heart, and Satan slithered in. The weight of the invisible serpent rests on my shoulders as I fidget in Sunday school. Prince of Darkness says awful things that shock my devout mother. Father of deception mimics my voice. I can't do long division, but I know these gospels are just fables, and if there is a hell, I am going there. The nighttime routine of brushing teeth and kneeling beside my bed to promise if I should die before I wake, the Lord can have my soul. Like the pledge of allegiance, I repeat the prayer in rote recitation because I am a phony. I can't convince myself. How can I fool God who sees right through me like a plastic skeleton hanging naked at school? Lying in the crowded dark, I listen for any sign of the entities that reside inside of me. If what Pastor Rick says is make-believe, I say to the salivating demon in my mind, that means you're not real either. And with an amateur magician's puff of smoke at a birthday party, the serpent disappears as if he were never here. And I'm extremely alone, talking to myself. And there are no flames rising to lit the soles of my feet. All right. I'm gonna start the timer on my watch, because I forgot to start my timer, because I'm really bad at keeping time. Hold on a second. There we go. Isn't that nice? Now I know how much time I have. Now we're all on the same page. Okay, this is a poem about a true story as well. And I was mowing my lawn and ran over a hornet's nest that was buried in the ground. So There you go. Let's write a poem about that. So it's about that and other things. Like, isn't that what poems do? So this is called Saturday Morning in August. My body moves, sluggish and heavy, under a relentless Midwest summer sun. I drag my tree trunk legs as I push the lawn mower over an abandoned burrow harboring a nest of yellow jackets. My ankle tendon snaps as easily as a dry twig, graceful free fall of a controlled demolition straight down to wreckage in the grass. A riot erupts as a horde of wasps swarm and swallow me up. In a frenzied crime of passion, they plunge their stingers wild and brutal. In my swelling foot, a heart throbs. 100 little needles pulsate. Feels like a forest fire raging out of control under my blotchy skin. And somewhere in my youth, the clang and panic of an emergency room swirls around me in a blur. Mechanical breathing of a ventilator after barefoot stepping on a bee who died and tried to take me with it. Over 30 years out from that tiny assault, I'm unsure if a landmine still lingers. Sweat and sunscreen seep into the couch as I wait for the potential onset of anaphylactic shock, and houses don't empty themselves. I am an ungrateful piece of shit, and this is why I'm waiting and maybe dying alone. Huh. All right. You didn't see that twist coming in the end, did you? It's about peace and stuff. You're like, oh, what just happened? So that's how that happens. So, okay. So I will, let's see here. Where are we at? Okay. This is called augury. And that word is about looking for signs in nature, particularly birds, trying to find like signs that mean something. So this kind of goes along with the first poem. I'm a severe skeptic about everything. So I was trying to explore other things. So this is called augury. Our bedroom window looks east, toward the tree you grew from a sapling, where new days take root in the gentle sweeping of the graceful willow. This morning, singing stirred me awake. Perched within the branches, flashes of black and yellow feathers flutter as a bouquet of magnolia warblers rest on their journey north. Your favorite avian tourist must have chosen today of all days for a reason, I tell myself. I neglect the knowledge of migratory patterns that place these birds here every year, disregard the awareness of seed feeders in the yard, quiet the skeptic, and permit a sliver of divination. I choose to accept this occurrence as a coded message transmitted through tree leaves and bird song. This is your voice now. It is not enough. None of this is real. I am listening. All right. We'll do one more from the new book, and then I've got other things. This poem is about, which I'm sure we all do on a regular basis, driving 46 from Bloomington into Nashville, into Columbus. And sometimes, with a certain light and certain weather, it feels like a roller coaster, or maybe you might die. So this is about that. So this is about 46. It's called Afterlife. Roads slick as liars' tongues. Your hands white-knuckle the steering wheel tight enough to strangle a confession out of it. Push-pull of velocity's influence into and out of each sharp curve. Guardrails can only keep you so safe. Stare hard enough through the glass skin of the mechanical animal that carries you inside its belly. Imaginary wall in the middle of the road we agree to believe in, similar to faith, but with real-world consequences. So much of what protects us isn't really there. Survival is so many unspoken agreements not to do terrible things to each other. Headlights in the distance get closer. They turn down their high beams. One line of code that confers, we're in this together. Pass close enough to feel a rush of wind against the driver's side window. Your entire life for a split second is in their hands. Each of us not swallowing our spoonful of oblivion just then. All right. I'm going to actually read from a book I've never really read from. I thought, why not? We're here. So I published a book a few years ago, 2013, called Ken, A Man for All Seasons. And yes, it's about that Ken. So, go figure, okay, all right, let's just say, I'm not saying that this book inspired the movie Barbie. Greta Gerwig did not reach out to me, but you cannot prove it did not. So the burden of proof is not on me. So, yeah, it's very pink. So, but I never really read from it. So I thought, why not? Let's do that. That'd be fun. We're doing great on time. We're all doing great. Everybody doing good on time? You're doing great? You're doing great on time? All right, good. Okay, but the funny thing about this book is it's about Ken. It's all from the point of Ken. But it's really more about individuality, masculinity, fate, purpose, relationships, a whole bunch of things from the point of Ken. So I'm just gonna read a few from it, just because I don't really read from this, so I thought, why not? Okay. So this first one was actually inspired by my wife, and she would tell me how, when she was younger, she was playing with her Barbies and Ken and stuff like that, and she would make them make out, and she was like, oh, it's so good. So I was like, okay. So this ended up in here. So this is called I Will Meet You in the Shadow-Drenched Corner. Feeling of doing something naughty crawls across the back of the neck like the faint presence of a daddy long legs. They are too young to understand why they must be secretive. They know this must take place in the shadows. They make us kiss, modeling us after their parents and actors on television. If they get caught, all hell will break loose. This is not how proper girls play with their toys, they are told. They are told to see if anyone is looking, then dive back into the plastic makeup session, shocked at their own audacity to do such illicit, such delicious things, to take such risks, and they like it. All right, this is called I Carry. All the poems start with I, because Ken's a very self-centered person. Again, I'm just saying, I didn't inspire, I'm just Ken. I'm just saying every poem in this book starts with I. You be the judge. You be the judge. This is called I Carry a Razor Just in Case. If I were to wake up one day to find I was a real man, like Pinocchio, I would take one long breath just to see how functioning lungs feel. And then I would open my wrists like Christmas presents. I have seen what happens to you people over the years. All right. And this is another one. I'm just saying, if you've seen the movie and you've seen the Barbie with the cut hair, I'm just saying, there's a poem in here called I Watch While She's Ruined. I'm just saying about cutting Barbie's hair. So this is called I Watch While She's Ruined. Her smile never wavers. She has no other option. At first, she is so new, so perfect, so loved, everything a little girl hoped she would be. And after a while, they all get bored. They acquire the entire wardrobe, all the accessories. They take her on too many adventures to count. The scissors appear like a concealed murder weapon. Doesn't matter their parents said never to play with them or matches. The cutting begins, making her new, beautiful, stylish for at least a few hours. The morning after, she looks butchered and abused. Tufts of once cascading golden locks now look like broken corn stalks. The little girls regret the change. They always ask for a new one, and they always get it. Okay. And this will be the last one I do from Ken. Spend a little time with Ken. Hey, Ken. And this is, again, kind of about individuality. So this is about Ken running into himself. And this is called I Am Not As Happy As Myself. I run into myself often. Mirror image that is not a reflection. There I am, being me, and there is someone else, being me. I'm not naive. I have not forgotten my roots. Still, to see me living a completely different life and a different home with the same different woman in an alternate universe sprawling in front of me. Is he better at being me than I am? How has his skin stayed so golden brown? Is he more loved? Why doesn't he say anything? The girls decide. He is my long-lost twin brother, and we have been looking for each other our entire lives. They decide we are so happy to have found each other. He must be more cherished and happier than me. Why else would he have a smile big enough for me to crawl into? Okay, so I'm just going to read, just a couple. This is the book that I had out before. Well, this is one before Midnight Sunrise called Mirror Box. I'm going to read just a couple from it. And funny enough, in life, all the time, people come up to me and think I'm somebody else. I don't know. My wife thinks I make a lot of eye contact with people, but it happens like all the time. Like people are like, hey, I know you, and yeah, it's not me. Like all the time. The funniest one was I was at a bar. The guy came in, he's like, hey man, what you doing? Like, oh man, I don't know who you are. He's like, you don't have to be a dick about it. You know who I am. I'm like, I do not know you do. I guess I just have one of those common faces. So this is called I Don't Look Like Myself Today. Or the subtitle is All the Lives I've Never Led. Our distracted glances connect across a lunchtime cafe crowd. With a swift flinch of recognition, an unsure smile of disbelief widens as you calculate the possibility of now. Gasp, as if you've seen a ghost, and maybe you have. Stop where you stand in the murky middle of your history as the barista waits for you to order. Wait for me to have an equivalent reaction. Finish the sentence you haven't said. Start to speak. Expect to find each other in the dense fog of a shared memory. Then realize you're alone. I don't know you. Panic for a second at the prospect of being forgotten. Not even a footnote in the meandering narrative of someone's life who made an impact or at least an impression on your own. Step back into this moment with a stranger who isn't aware that we've lost cabin pressure, but oxygen is flowing again. Take a breath as we arrive at the other side of this stunted exchange. This misplaced person who casts a similar shadow as me has not traversed whatever chasm of time and space, so they could be standing happenstance in a coffee shop. But for a few swift heartbeats, miracles existed. I thought you were someone else, you say. That's okay. I often mistake myself for someone else, I say. We part ways, the end feels abrupt, as if there is more to say. The conversation feels unfinished, but I don't think it's the one between us right now. One last little one. It's funny, I was gonna write like a blues poem or something, but then I can't help but be me. So it ended up being kind of like a blues poem mixed with, I don't even know what. This poem was like, I don't know, I think I was cleaning one day and remembering that dust is like, skin and hair and like all that stuff. So I thought, well, there's a poem, because that's how my brain works. So this was supposed to be a love poem, blues poem, and then I had somebody said, that is a sad poem and gross. I was like, well, I guess it works. I guess we've achieved full poem status. So this will be my last poem. So I just want to say thank you all for listening. Thank you, Tony, the Writers Guild, for everybody for having me. And it's always a pleasure to read with my Dogwood brothers. So this is my last poem. It's called You're All Over the Floor. Every corner of this house has the deposits you've left behind. You are woven into my couch. You clog the sink. You clog my bathroom sink. Flakes of your skin, strands of your hair, wander around in the stale sunlight like lost tourists. I inhale your debris. The dust I'm leaving behind intertwines with your dust, and our bodies dance without us being in the room. Once the tuneless swaying stops, we will reside in corners, under tables, like children hiding from strangers. And eventually, we will be discovered. We will be swept up, disposed of, and forgotten. Then we will be one, like we always should have been. That's it.
So we have Julian and Kyle up for a set, and then we'll take a short break. And please, if you haven't already done so and you would like to, I have the sign-up sheet for open mic, so please see me.
Yeah.
children's.
Unforgiving chairs, like a version of musical chairs, but.
I got some that turned out okay.
Cool. I mean, I could.
The show was great. I got here. I was like, sorry.
Oh, nice.
No, I saw him. If you want to step outside.
Thinking more of it. I know it's yeah. At least for Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
We had Barbies Make like little mobiles out of them and stuff.
Pretty much.
Probably like a beer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here? Okay.
Yeah. By the art. It's always the art background. The spots good for that. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, wow, a lot of people.
I'm supposed to go to Indianapolis, but it doesn't
Oh, that's a good one. Do you, I don't want to take it serious.
Oh, that's good, that's good.
Or not. I don't Okay, it's like, like magnets. All right. Some other things. Okay. Yeah. So you're planning to go over there? I would say tomorrow. Yeah.
Congratulations on
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, been trying, so. I've also been reading more. No, the whole bunch of times. I'm trying to look those up. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Whatever. They've had a bad day or they've had a good day. Go. That what Tanya's got?
A lot.
Just cough. Tonya, I guess she's.
Cigar. Yeah, really good session.
I don't think it's just Collins everywhere. Oh, you're like bringing all that stuff in. Yeah, everybody in my office has got that like same dry cough thing going on.
Here's an experimental social sugar.
My daughter's at play practice tonight. I got one person that's like. I know.
AI avatars. They're trying to, chatbots. Because nobody wants to do customer service. And so all these outsourced. They're trying to make a chatbot.
Like a physiological version of that, not a taste thing. Yeah.
Funny, they say we put it in, you start a cartoon. Experience, and at some point, you're not So that was different.
stayed within fairly narrow sort of rhythmic kind of framework. Now, surprising, I expected you to like, go across the top of the floor, you stand high on that side, and on the other side of that top.
About how they, take an interview, you ask a question, and you're sitting in front of a flash computer and record your answer. They ask me like 10 questions, and somebody, maybe the first 10 seconds of those questions, now they're actually using AI to evaluate the interview. They're training kids for intelligence to that, change the system, but you do the best response. So the companies would have to say, well, is it better? And I think that it's AI.
Following like fly and bell sort of.
Say that people that pause, I was saying, oh, yeah.
Right, so I felt like I needed to stretch out more than I really.
Yeah, so that's.
And I actually got it probably like I was up to because I wasn't.
I'm a little worried by that. But now the machine can do it for you.
Yeah, you do. Right.
That's amazing.
What gets me about this?
So yeah, it's like prepared, but there's some parts of it are not the same way.
Yeah.
Well, and the drum sound very driven. So
Although this is so cheap,
I mean, I think it sounded good. There was just a lot more
and it was
sound.
AI thing that made them auto-tune.
Yeah. Not a lot of.
Yeah, so if you,
I feel like I should have done more to it. Not sure it gets into rhythmic.
So the man side of the question, I can tell.
Right.
That's what I do. And then.
It's like you're less space in the room. Yeah, so when there's switches to people you're playing with.
Input, output, it just twiddles them, nobody knows how to actually twiddle them. And since you have this huge data set, it's handling a picture of a cat, you know? It teaches us how to play. It didn't actually, what they do is they pick the next code. It's not even the next word, it's the next, it could be like free. And so that's what they're predicting. So what they're really good at is imitating human beings. They're not necessarily lying. They don't necessarily give you the right answer, you know, but they are just really good passing sentences. So the person right there, Yeah, so he was doing something here, and he was using this room as like center of Christian space. So he would play it here. Still remember that. Just what you're describing, it sounds like we definitely not this. Well, if Tony and I make a yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the catch that it all takes pictures, so I'll be here. I'm gonna try to get a few other. Most of these shows, we might ask for a donation to help. How could you say? I would say no. Lunatic. What's the date? 26th.
Gotta get in trouble when I come home with the form, okay, so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Only one.
So,
It's getting ridiculous. I will probably need these in my car and bring it in. I know I'm getting in trouble, but I get.
Good to see you in here. Now that I have everything set up, I'm a little more relaxed. Although I think I need to get the sound going again for open mic for the stream.
I apologize, I have to go down and have an oncologist appointment in the morning.
No problem.
I'll be in touch, yeah, I need to come down there. Have a life outside, so I get home.
Yeah, it's good to have a life outside of sitting at home. And I didn't know if we'd have any time to really worry about it this time. And I knew your voice was bothering you, so I didn't bring it up. But you know, if you wanted to play over us, we could have done something. Read
I'll
over
tell you
us.
what, let's talk about this. This is actually a side effect of this needle, so I don't expect it to go anywhere. It's in there like, skin sores, I'm like, skin sores are like acne, I'm like, all right, I'll help you bring a second time.
Perfect.
All right, give me the deep voice.
It's the hormone ride up and down, right? Sort of like menopause.
And the awkwardness of trying to talk to kids. So I'll tell you this.
I mean, you got over that awkwardness? I never got over that awkwardness. I'm married.
I fake it through poetry. I fake it through poetry.
That's why music's so young.
so hold after open mic, please. All y'all and free.
Some stuff like the break-in sound for that, or stuff like that.
So the way this works is I will introduce the first reader, who will then introduce the next reader, and so on. And we need to keep to a shorter time, so definitely 3 to 5 minutes. So our first reader for open mic is Terry Sloan. If you wanted to sign up for open mic and you haven't done so, the sign-up sheet is up here. There's still time to sign up. So first reader is Terry Sloan, and then Terry will introduce the next person, and so on.
I'm gonna go quick because I got a lot to say. I was in Taos, New Mexico, at a coffee shop, and I looked down and it looked like what was a little plastic dispenser for travel brochures, and I looked at it, and it was a 3-panel portrait. Eat the Rich, Trust the Artist, has a bunch of poems inside on the back, your poem here, and an email address to submit poems. So I thought, hey, we need one of those. So this is a prototype of Portrait to the People, Volume 1. Absolutely free, in the best sense of the word. And your poem here, there's a submit, there's an email address at the bottom. And I need help because I have 3 prototype poems in here that I wrote, but I'm kind of a one-trick pony. So I would like to try to get at least 3 poems on one page. If it's a magnificent poem, maybe the whole page. If it's an extraordinary page, I'm poem maybe 2/3 of the page. Otherwise, if we put 3 poems in, it's 3 times the chance that somebody finds a poem that changes their life. So, I'd like to read 2 of the poems that I put in this prototype. This is a eclipse poem. It's untethered by the lack of illumination. The world's been whirled awry by portents in the sky, afraid to blink, much less to think. My feet's loose, my fancy's free. Darkness too dark to see what's to say, but see you when I see you. This next poem is inspired by Joan Hawkins. She programmed the documentary of Ruth Weiss. I stole the title from Rolling Stone's verse of a song called Sway, and the first 2 lines I stole from the snippet of a poem that was in that documentary by Ruth Weiss. It's called Circular Time. What's lost is replaced. I've lost my timing. Replace me, the stopwatch, to time my timing. Stop, watch, mistimed, misplaced, still the stopwatch measures frozen time. I've lost too much time to replace. When I'm still, will I still search for more? So, next is Peter K.
Thank you much. And for those keeping score, it's Peter Kerschbaum, but that's always good enough. So, yeah, I can get in under 3 to 5 minutes. It's always great to do this because, I mean, there's that little voice in my head that goes, wow, these people are so good, I suck. But, mostly it's like, I can learn things and I'm going to write better poems after hearing the people. And that includes folks at the open mic. So, it's just great to be here and hear all the poetry. I've got 2 to read. These are both from my dysfunctional relationship series, and I've got quite a few of those. So, though I'm in a really good relationship now, which kind of makes these easier to write in a way. This first one is called The Game. The game grows stale, yet we keep playing. You tell me it is not a game, but if I don't follow its rules, I won't know what I'm supposed to do. Day after day, year after year, the same 2 players on the screen, no mercy rule allowed. Though I try to reinvent, you will have none of that. You are the powers that be that won't change a thing. I reach out to touch the glass, to change the channel, but it is only a mirror and there is no remote. The face I see is the one you have given me. I hear you from the other room, moving forward, knowing you could do it without me, but still, we hang on. 2 junkies who think we need our fix, can't picture a screen that shows anything other than the game we have played for an eternity. I wake from a dream, it replays in my head, curse you, Shantix. You are still behind glass in a house that we knew but never had. Over and over, a game played by my favorite team, defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. A taste left behind that I don't recall being there when I first sank my teeth into the meal. I stare into the screen. I ask you to stand before the mirror where we are reflected, turned inside out. There is no other truth besides the game. The second one, and that first one actually has been published recently. Discretionary Love, that's the name of the website. This one is called Teat. You feed off my soul, building yourself up on all I have to give, taking my strength to make yourself feel whole. I nurture myself on your words that flow as milk from a teat. rationed out just enough to keep me alive. My mind riots as the thoughts you share turn me from calm to chaos, wishing for more as you say the flow gives all that I deserve. When I grow restless, no longer able to feel, I venture out into the night, huddle under a sputtering old lamp shining brightly on a street I knew as a child, illuminating memories of an existence that is now lost. Always, though, your anger and rage follow me out, echoing all around, holding down my body and mind, pushing me to believe that you are all that I am. And I return, let you take me into yourself, suckle on the little you share as I give up what I was, now twistedly happy, yet slightly insane, as I turn further into what you want me to become. Thank you. And next up is Joan Hawkins.
So thank you. I actually wasn't going to read tonight, but then when Joe read that piece about other people mistaking him for somebody else, I remembered this thing that I posted on Facebook. It's a true story. This happened to me about 9 years ago, so I'm going to read this very rough little piece. At Inkwell today, a woman greeted me warmly and called me Angela. When I told her my real name, she argued with me, citing all the places where she and I had been, what we'd talked about, and where she had known me as Angela. Now, Angela, whoever she is, doesn't sound like she likes the same things I do, or talks about the same things I do. And she has a different voice because this woman worried that I had a cold. So I wonder if somewhere my doppelganger Angela is being regaled with recommendations for vampire novels. And if someone worries that she's too stressed because she doesn't sound like her usual alto self and seems to have forgotten her name.
Next up.
Sorry, Angela.
Hi, I'm James Thor. This is a story that was first published in 2016 in an anthology called Has Come to Our Attention. Yesterday on Facebook, I ran across a notice from Alien Buddha Press for the outfit that put out my latest collection, in fact, A Voice Seeing a Mouse. But they're doing an anthology on conspiracy stories. The title, I think, is They're Conspiring Against the Alien Buddha Too. So they're looking for stories. I think for anyone interested, I think they're open till the end of the month, and they're on Facebook with this. Anyhow, yesterday I sent him this story, and maybe it's a conspiracy, but the guy accepted it right away. So it'll be coming out there. The story, as I mentioned, it was published nearly 10 years ago because there's some names named and things that happened alluded to that no one will remember anymore, which is okay. It's called Chocolat. Bah! Chocolat. It was even chocolate. Maurice threw down his newspaper in disgust. Was nothing sacred? The headline loomed up at him from the floor. Definition of chocolate changed. It was in the newspaper's business section. An industry move to follow the lead of American food processors to abolish the requirement that so much cocoa butter be contained in to call a thing chocolate had been passed by the European Union's Finance Council. Finance, indeed. Maurice quivered with disgust. He, a pensionaire, a veteran of 2 wars for the glory of France, it had now come to this. Chirac had been bad enough, and then that newcomer openly in the pocket of the President Americain, Even this socialist now is no better, acquiescing, even leading the latest attack against the very food the French people ate. You are what you eat, the thought came to him, an expression no doubt originally coined in France. And now you eat chocolate and you will be what? Up to 50 to 60% nothing more than cheap vegetable oil, so the article claimed. He would have shivered had it not been for the heat, another gift of l'industrie financière, the ever-escalating summer warmth. People had died the last several years, those too poor to go to the mountains or the coast for the August vacation. But at the least, the French ate well, or so they once had. It had been France's legacy. Scientific papers had been written about Frenchmen's envy of long lives and excellent health, until now. There had been riots the previous summer, farmers on strike, blocking roads with their tractors, protesting the adulteration of produce, and filling markets with cheap foreign imports, until the gendarmerie came with water cannons. You bought strawberries now huge, plump, deep red, and tasting like paper. If you could even find real cream to put on them. And beef from England, and last week's news, a recent shipment suspected to have been infected by la vache fou, the disease of the mad cow. Maurice felt himself melting. We ought to object, he thought. The mayor at least should know. We whose wellness, whose being, whose substance is put to risk by these businessmen. Food made from chemicals, hybridizations, irradiated by who knows what. If one could find fresh cream from one's paper strawberries, what kind of poisons would that cow be eating? He felt his anger rise, boiling above his head. He pushed his front door open and oozed down the steps into the street to join his fellow townspeople, chanting with them, "Le maire, aussi le mairesse." Where were France's guillotines now when they were needed? Up to 50 to 60% cheap vegetable oil indeed. Maurice flowed with the crowd. Next, Hiromi Yoshida.
I'm going to read again from the hard copy proof of Green versus Bloom for Icarus. That's my second full-length collection that's going to come out in October. So I'm extremely thrilled about this, and I'm especially thrilled about the fact that Tony wrote this extremely good blurb for this book. And it's really tempting to read that, but I don't have it, and it might take long to read it, so instead I'll read something from the book itself. In fact, I'll read a poem that I've never read before. It's called Icarus Before the Fall. Did he watch the strange seabirds pass over the Isle of Crete, yearning to emulate their long, wayward flight? Did he skip flat stones across the unruly, murky surface of the Aegean Sea, contemplating the next stolen supper of unleavened bread and charred meat? Did he watch his father sweating in his workshop, bending osier strips into strange compliance, shift his bored gaze toward Pasiphae's painted dolls? Did he hum wordless ditties, replicating the buzz of flies that speckled his dinner plate? Did he press a conch shell to his jingling ear, hearkening to the soft roar of predestination? Did his driftwood stylus inscribe illegible Greek letters on wet beach sand, washed away at high tide by Poseidon's mighty hand? Silly defiant son of Daedalus, did he glance skyward and see his unnamed mother, the smirking sun that receded past his greedy reach? A green coin. Next up is Brian Price.
Try to get out a pair of glasses that will work best. With the sort of the tradition that started with Tony, I remember reading just a real short little thing that was just so weird that I found, it's not mine, it's a 12th century quote from an interpreter, a man who, or a translator, translated from French to English and that kind of thing in the 12th century. And the profession of the interpreter was equally recognized in the south of France and is mentioned several times in the poems of the Adjoua Crusade. A man, in my opinion, by skill or use, can understand any language, but I know no interpreter who can understand a lyre. Boy, that seems really modern. I have two short poems. I thought, the last time I was here, that things are so serious, and I should get serious, but I did this instead. This is called Hum. Let us discuss humming. That's something I'm good at, or at least proficient. If humming had been on my third grade report card at Stonewall Jackson Elementary School in Arlington, Virginia, in 1965, yeah, I really did go to a school called Stonewall Jackson Elementary. They would have said, spelling, below average. Attitude needs improvement. Humming, proficient. I hummed on the way to school. I hummed on the way back. All the way home. I hummed even when you weren't supposed to hum. Church, the dinner table, first dates. Humming is not singing, or at least not the way I do it. Orchestras play inside my head. Rock bands, solo artists, drill building wannabes. The guitar parts, the bass parts, and the cymbals, and the snares, the tom-toms, the hi-hats, and the singers, all those singers, I hum all the harmonies. And it sounds so perfect, especially walking under a bridge, the dark echoes and waves of traffic busting by. Hums are best felt when it is so loud you can't hear them. There is no history of humming, although most likely Beethoven hummed relentlessly. But of course, he denied it to the press. I often hum originals, but I often hum the classics also. Bicycle Walk for Two, King of the Road, and Cream's Sunshine of Your Love. I was walking around a corner screaming Sunshine of Your Love at the top of my lungs and ran into a flock of nuns. We scared the shit out of each other. Hums, the tadpole of poetry, the tadpoles of poetry. I walk around the block. I say to myself, I'm going to want to get this down. I get home, the door sticks, something's in my shoe, the phone rings. I have hummed the art of remembering nothing. I have hummed the joy of forgetting everything. Tomorrow, I will hum again. And this one's called Backup. Backup, there is no backup. This is the only poem I've got. It's rich.
Okay, well,
So
so serious. I'm going with that and then have a funny one after that. So I recently wrote this one specifically for a submission, which isn't something that I normally do. And it's long, so I'm not gonna explain it. It's called 50 Shades of Crazy. When you've lived your whole life paranoid about the family curse, this is when the derivative monologue cuts in. If every time you dry a large chef's knife from the dishes, you envision yourself stabbing down into your lathe, the blood, the pain, a residual image flashing back as you put away the silverware. If every time you are at the top of a flight of stairs, you brace yourself, see yourself tumbling to the bottom, brittle bones snapping, your partner coming home from work, finding you neck shattered at the bottom of the last step. If every time someone says something slightly off to you, you must stifle the urge to scream. Your tolerance for the mildest of things suddenly dissipated in the years past, your fear of outbursts constant. If every time a family member's mental illness is mentioned, you defend yourself by simply cutting them off out of the picture for fear their behaviors may exacerbate your behaviors, maybe you should get your head checked. Let them in there like a greasy-handed mechanic searching out crises, equipped with only the finest of psychiatric tools to soothe your wounds. The family curse comes cruising through your synapses again, and it doesn't matter how snappy of a dresser you are, or how kind you are to turtles as you're helping them cross the road, or the love of nature that resounds in each soft petal that is stroked at the midnight hour in hopes of a different bloom. It simply does not matter how hard you struggle against inherited madness. It will reverb in an echo chamber for only so long before it starts bouncing around and you are hobbled by its unwelcome entrance into your every waking moment. The implications of such a future mind are staggering. The desperate smile upon your face as you meet out your days, just waiting for the crazy shoe to drop. It cracks at times, and the facade of having your shit together fades like a hazy oasis you've been chasing for days that just vanishes in the mist as you stumble toward it, thirsty and destitute, resolved to finding refreshment in the smallest of happinesses available. How many shades of crazy are there in the rainbow of the DSMV? Let's see how that lilac taste of paranoid schizophrenia to cleanse the palate. A bold indigo smattering of borderline personality disorder goes best with which wine? A savory cerulean dish of narcissistic God complex to reflect, to project a shade of worthy blame. Perhaps a daffodil dash of anxiety in the mix to give that cornucopia of sadness a lemony twist. Now let's mix it all together and scrutinize the situation to see if these visions of grandeur truly exist. Are you talking to me, punk? Show yourself to be true and not a ruse of my vivid imagination. Circling back again to reiterate a vagrant potency that will not let loose for the sake of sanity or any other false pretense. We must accept fate as it is handed to us, down from the bottom of the barrel or the highest point of a decked out Christmas tree, heavy with tinsel and nostalgic memory. Is this constant throbbing voice simply creativity or a symptom of the mind releasing its last gasp before the final act of this strangely crafted universe where we all have but bit parts? Okay, and then the palate cleanser. This is called Catwoman Has a Bitchin' Hot Flash in Her Patent Leather Catsuit. She flies through the air, dark and mysterious, her catsuit shining in the fading sunset. Strangely enough, again, she can't get that Bruce guy out of her head. She turns to do another lap,
shot of rooftop leaps around Gotham's business district. Not seeking out Bruce's 7th floor penthouse consciously, but there she goes again, doing acrobatic flips against his window, hoping maybe he is changing into Batman for the evening. Her face masked but flustered, she does a couple of impressive backflips and then whips off her mask. Her hair drenched, she sighs and grabs a towel from her well-worn leather fanny pack. Menopause is no joker, one of life's biggest riddlers. Catwoman wishes she had chosen a more suitable to her present age alter ego when she was a younger supervillain. Perhaps a mysterious fan-clad lady of the night. Or maybe Batwoman. Yeah, maybe she could seduce Bruce and convince him to live in tandem. She could bring him over to the dark side of the veil. Batman and Batwoman, happily ever after. And Richard Germain is next.
Thank you. Did not plan on doing this, so there's just one in the chamber, there's one on the phone. It will be serious. I don't really do funny very well. And I don't plan on reading when I go out to an open mic, but why be scared? I heard, and there's not something special about doing something spontaneous that you just feel like doing suddenly when you're in a poetry reading. So. What rocky star, all but black, where early hominid stood Homo erectus, condensed crystalline sweat, concealed under night, witness, cold, thunderous, waking with tooth and bone, huddled together, aching, with fresh memory of skeletal rivals, and commune the angelic frame in their bewilderment. What frightful pain awakens in touch of tooth upon root, with cold damp and sorrowful tears? What ache and trembling pitch first ring out, leaching forth creaturely mass? What but quaking pulse of flesh rhythm, banging drum on animal hide, that ancient kill can bring memory to eloquent tongue of family embers parading through the black sky to sing and dance out the eternal harmony of its painful purpose? What rock and soot had given could not be written in the soundless grapheme existence of its modern machine grace, that fearsome schism of inner rival self, born modern Prometheus as constantly renewing loss. In the silent coil, now howls its own song against cold rock bluff and serpent skies made redundant in the calculated fires. Every animal a witness knew their terrible wrath for wanton discovery. What once hounded with remorseless loss and suffering, now only pleasures churning here. Mechanism of the earthbound God imago, lockstep and subroutine of monotonous drone, we have been delivered. Justice Aaron Rensberg.
Looks like I'm last on the list, so there'll be a moment of silence at the end for the reader who comes after me. I'm going to read two. They sort of, they're sort of related to one. The first one I'm going to read, I wrote about 30 years ago when I was in my 40s. And so it was a perspective from which you could see sort of both ends of your life. You're sort of at the center of it. It's called About to Sit Down. Stepping out the back door and watching snow settle bright, gleaming on the wood pile. The backwards and forwards looking guy smells smoke, and the color of the leaf-covered ground comes up into his eyes. Daylight is going to bed in the dirt, and snowflakes follow it as far down as they can. The backwards and forwards looking guy is about to sit down and remember all the snows he can and imagine the ones to come. He leans back in the rocker and releases, his weight impelling its own motion the other way. If my youth were a summer pasture, I'd be in a migration now toward the lower slopes just ahead of winter. He sniffs his own smoke and thinks, I'm burning too, but slowly enough to be good for me. And then this last one was written very recently. And it's kind of an echo of that past. The one I'm talking about just stood up for the coming day. Light barely on to the east, sun to follow soon. He's thinking backwards and forwards both at once. They're further apart than they used to be, and one has made the most advance. Not the future. Ago gets so long ago to be so bright or dark, sometimes so touched with color, sometimes so untouchable by anything. That guy with his back and forth mind is standing there in the earliest thing that could be called day, standing there like a pyre ready to light, looking east and waiting to see the sun come up, the other thing burning at this hour. Thank you.
So thank you to everybody who came and stayed. We have another round of applause for just everybody. Because we never get enough. Just a reminder that next month we'll be here on Thursday, July 11th, and it'll be a special program featuring poets who are represented in the Stormwash Environmental Poems Anthology that came out in April, that was published by Grindstone Press and edited by Bloomington. And there will be music by the Youth Tones. So we hope to see you here then. And just a reminder that this is very timely. I don't know how many of you saw it this past week. Howler monkeys are falling out of the trees in Mexico. They're so hot and dying and falling out of the trees. So this is a time when it's good to be reminded that maybe poetry can help us read books. So have a good evening. I will see you next week. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and we have items to do this. So Julian and Kyle, come on up. Take us out, please.
3 or 5 minute thing also. I'm not sure either Julian and I are technically 3 to 5 minutes. Feel free to filter out.
Thanks, John.
That's a kill the stream.
This is Peter. Thank you.